Welcome to Homeschooling Outside the Box, the podcast that encourages and equips moms who homeschool an outside-the-box child. Hey there, I'm Cindy Renna, and I'm so glad you're here today. I have got something so fun planned. I have my very, very dear friend Danielle here with me today because we are going to talk to you about our homeschool group that we run. And I hope that you will be encouraged to start your own homeschool group or plug into one if you don't have one. But if you've ever felt like you maybe wanted to start one, you weren't really sure what to do, we have got you covered today. So Danielle Easley, welcome to the show.
Hi, Cindy. How are you? I'm using my radio voice because you may not know Cindy has a radio voice as well, or podcast voice.
It's a lie. It's a lie. Okay, the truth is Danielle is known for her very quiet talk, and of course, I'm the complete opposite. So you're going to see two sides of a coin, or hear two sides of a coin today. So you are in for a real treat. All right, Danielle, so tell the audience a little bit about yourself and your family and how you got started homeschooling.
Okay, so I have been married to my husband for 28 years. We have two girls. The first one is 14, and our second one is 6. So you might be wondering about the age gap there. We fostered for several years after our first daughter, and we ended up adopting our second daughter through foster care and homeschooling. So funny story with that. I actually decided to homeschool before I decided I wanted to have children. I know, it's an odd order, but I tend to do things that way. There was a homeschool family that lived across from us when we were first married. And when I met them, we had a conversation. It was the mother and the two children out there in their front lawn, and we were talking. And after the conversation, I came home and I told my husband, I said, so I just met our neighbors across the street. By the way, if you're listening, hello. I said, but it was kind of strange. I said, they homeschool. And he said, well, so what was strange? And I'm like, I don't know, but like with the kids, it was weird, but it was like a good weird, and I couldn't put my finger on it for a couple of days. And then I figured out eventually it was because the children knew how to converse with an adult, like they were taking part in the conversation, and that's what made it strange. Like I hadn't had that kind of interaction with kids before. So anyway, long story longer, I got to thinking about homeschool, and I realized that if I was going to have any kind of time with my children, should we have children at some point, I wanted it to be more than just a few hours at night, getting them ready for bed, having dinner, that kind of thing. I wanted to be able to pour into them throughout the day as opposed to those precious couple hours at the end of the day. So that's how we ended homeschooling. We knew before we had children that if we did have children, we would homeschool.
That's so neat. I'm always so fascinated by people who just knew, because if you've been listening for a while, you know that is not our story. And if you're new to the show, you can go back and listen to the early episodes to hear how we got started. But okay, so I want to talk to you about how we started our homeschool group, because I want to encourage anybody listening, if you've thought of starting a group but didn't know what that looked like, or if it feels like kind of this big thing that is going to be overwhelming or really hard to do, I just want to dispel some of that anxiety.
No, it's all true. All true.
Well, okay, I guess it depends on what kind of group, because I will say it can grow into that, and we will touch on that as well. But a group really just starts with two. So really, I know we're in a weird time with COVID, and who knows, things could be pedaling backwards a little bit now. So I know some of you listening you were never like all the way open yet, like we are here in the States or down in the South. So even if you don't have a lot of freedom to meet, you can still get some, it's still really important to build community. So wouldn't you say that, like, when it comes to homeschooling, community is a non-negotiable?
Yes. You definitely don't want to end up isolated. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're homeschooling or not homeschooling. You just don't want to end up in some type of isolated situation. So whether that's work relationships or school relationships or homeschool relationships, whatever that looks like, relationships, we're built for relationships. We need those. So if you're homeschooling and you're not a part of a group where you have that, you definitely need to get plugged in somewhere or start that plug yourself.
Right. And so I started, or in my Get Started packet, that if you want, that's free. If you go to my website, you can check that out. That is actually one of the to-dos, is to find a homeschool group to be a part of. And so I think that stigma of homeschoolers being unsocialized and, everybody asking or, being concerned, but what are you going to do about socialization? That was never a concern for me as much as friendship. So, you socialize your dog, but your children and yourself, you really need community and friendship. And so that was always the angle for me.
And I'll say this too, if you are not homeschooling yet, maybe you're on the fence about it, maybe you want to, and you and your spouse are not in agreement about it yet or whatever. If one of the reasons that you are not homeschooling is because you're concerned about your child or children's socialization, please put that concern to rest. Because if you are in an area where homeschooling tends to, our area is small and we have a huge homeschool. How would you even say that?
It's very homeschool friendly where we live. Now, I know there's people listening specifically. I've spoken with you who, they don't know a single homeschooler in their whole city, in their whole area. Right. It's not a homeschool friendly area.
Right. So if you are in an area where there's even a homeschool group, just know that it is possible to have too much socialization. In our particular area, we have to say no to a lot. If we said yes to every opportunity, we literally would never have time to actually do any schooling to get an education. We would be having fun 24/7. There's just that much opportunity. And it could be that if you investigated your area, you might find that there are groups available, and socialization, perhaps for you, would be a non-issue.
Right. Okay. So now I want to talk to people who might be thinking, okay, there are a lot of groups in my area. I do know a lot of homeschoolers.
But they're just weird?
Yeah. So they're weird, or we've been and we were not welcome. And so let me talk to my people for a minute here. That happened to us. We were not welcome in many places. And so I had a choice. I could decide to be a turtle and pull my head into my shell and say, well, I'm not going to be a part of any group and we're just not going to hang out with anybody. And I did that a lot. But it's not good. It's like we talked about earlier, that we were made for relationships. So that is, opting out for a season is understandable. People go through some things, but in terms of I'm just never going to have a group or be around people, that's really not an option. That's unhealthy, and not just for the kids, but for me. So what I realized is I needed my people. I needed a group of people that I felt comfortable with, that I wanted to do life with, that I shared values with, and who knew my children and all of their idiosyncrasies and all of their beautiful ups and downs, for better or for worse, and loved us anyway. Mm-hmm. And so I searched for that, and I did not find it. And I found the opposite sometimes, and it was painful. But what happened was so, so beautiful, because it forced me to think outside the box. You like how I did that? Yeah. And say, okay, well, then I will start a group that is custom fit, that my family will always be welcome to be a part of.
Because I'm in charge.
So it's really a benefit to do that. And then you can kind of have some healthy control over situations, and you can form things in a way that that do work for your family. So,
but let's start though by saying that you actually didn't set out to start a group.
Yes,
when
no.
all of this
So let's
came
start
about.
at the beginning. I did not. I wanted a friend. So it's so funny because before we started recording, we were talking about the beginning of our group, which is called Connect, by the way. So we were trying to track the history of Connect and find its birth,
Right.
birth, and we had two different memories of the beginning. And
Go figure.
I know. And so, okay, you remember me
So-
just wanting to go on field trips.
Yes.
Let's not-
So, well, let me start by saying, a woman that I knew, like she was kind of an acquaintance through church. She had recently moved into our neighborhood, and she was a little odd sometimes, but she was still fun, and we got along. We had actually served on a board together at church.
Oh, MOPS.
Yes, we were on the
Yeah.
MOPS board together. So anyway, she shows up on my doorstep one day and says, "Hey, I want to go do things, but I don't really have anybody to go do them with. Will you do them with us?" And I was like, "Well, sure. Sounds good to me. You just set it up and tell me where to be." So that's my memory. Like, that is how we started hanging out together, started doing some things together.
Yes,
But
and-
you think something else.
Right. Well, I go to when it was more formal, but let me just say we could stop right there. Like,
Yeah.
that could be the end of the podcast. And,
Yeah.
and we could just say, that's all it takes. Like, it's just you reaching out to somebody that you think, you get along with, you have some things in common, you share similar values, you want to do life together. Like, just find a person
That you feel safe with.
that you feel safe with. If you feel awful after you leave their presence, you should not hang out with them anymore. So find people that make you feel comfortable and happy. Okay, so we could stop there, but I really
It didn't
did.
stop
It
there,
didn't.
though, did it?
It did not. 6 years later. Okay, so that was when? That was probably 2016.
When did you move to my neighborhood?
Yeah, about the. So we can't even remember the date. We're so good.
15,
15, maybe 2015. Okay, and so then by 2016, we had thrown around the idea. We're like, let's just get some moms to meet at a park regularly, and so we did that, and we still wanted to go on these trips. So then,
Well, and we have a blueberry patch
yeah.
in our area, a You Pick blueberry patch. And I don't know how many of you live in a really hot area, but blueberries being picked in June or July, whenever it is here,
yeah.
in northern Alabama is atrocious.
Yeah.
I mean, it's horrible. You're sweating before you even get to the field. I mean, it's. But we decided we were gonna invite some friends
And
we were
have
gonna
this experience. It was a
load-
very homeschool thing to do.
load up all these small children and drag them through these blueberry bushes, which, by the way, I mean, it's, they're eating them and and anyway, it was hot. That's
It
what
was
I
hot.
remember.
It was every year,
but people came.
They did, and so that just goes to show, like, people will come. People want to do things. They want to gather together. They often just need somebody to start it.
And it comes down to having somebody to do it with. Just like you
Yeah.
mentioned on my doorstep, you just wanted somebody to do it with. Because
Right.
there's no way I was loading up my children to go to the blueberry patch and pick blueberries by ourselves.
Right.
But now you throw in a friend and suddenly it can be fun.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. And so then the next thing was PE. I think at that point, we started tossing around a name. We were trying to figure out, okay, like, let's make this a thing.
Don't y'all think Connect is like a fantastic name? If you're like forming relationships and like, that's just the best name.
You can play off the words so much. You say, we can't wait to connect with you.
Love it.
Okay, so then we started PE, and that was like a formal, like, okay, let's every Wednesday at 2,
Yes.
I think it was.
Which, again, may I point out, we are in North Alabama, and we're out there in the heat.
in the afternoon.
No shade. It was always nice and sunny, and we were doing PE at 2:00 in the afternoon every Wednesday. But
I'm not
people
saying we
came.
picked the best events.
But people came.
But they did. They came.
Yeah.
Right. And so, yeah, it was that. It was parks. and field trips. I feel like for the first maybe year or two. And then it was very organic. That's what we're trying to convey for sure. Like there was no
formal meeting, let's start a group. Yes.
Yeah, it was all very organic. And so then probably a year, two, like that we started getting some really consistent people coming.
Well, I would say even with the PE class, we saw consistency.
That's
and we
true.
started actually pulling from the attenders to run the group. Like after the first year, we saw somebody who had potential, that might want to
that showed
be
up
in charge.
regularly.
Yes.
She was responsible.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I mean, fantastic at running PE. She even ended up leading our field days.
Field day. Yeah.
Yeah, at the end of each year. So just finding, after you've been meeting, so like that was a year before we approached somebody and said, hey, how would you like to head this up?
Okay, well, we're going to get into the nuts and bolts of how to do it. But I mean, again, I just want to emphasize it was very organic. It was just kind of like, do the next right thing. Like so this is working. Let's add one thing to it, and maybe we'll add one more thing. And it was a lot of conversations of like, oh, I always want to do PE, but I can never seem to get out there and I don't know what to do. And we were always about filling the gaps.
Yes. Yeah.
Of our own homeschool. And so the other thing that was unique about this group that started collecting is we were all people who were not in a co-op or had tried a co-op and didn't like a co-op or, we did not want that.
And for me personally, the group that I was in, I had actually intended to continue with them, but that community closed that particular year. So
because
I just found myself at odd ends.
Well, because God wanted you to start connect with me, so he shut down the whole group.
He did. He shut down the whole community.
Yeah.
Everything.
The whole community shut down.
So just shut down, and seriously, like there were a few different things that happened all at once, and it was like, well, okay then.
He really wanted you to help me start this. Okay. So, all right. So let's talk about when we did start planning, because we kind of said what made it grow was that we were consistent, we were organized, we had, I think, ideas that other people wanted to do too. We were kind of the unco-op. So we've always been very a la carte, like you just kind of, you come to what you want to come to, you don't go to what you don't want to go to.
There's no commitment.
No commitment.
Because this week might work for you, and guess what? Next week might not work.
Yeah.
So you just, and letting the people know that we're okay with that, so they don't feel that there's an expectation that they have to show up or that we'll think less of them if they don't show up. We are very open about that. We put that out there that's even on our literature, like it's a la carte. You choose what you want and leave behind what doesn't work for you.
Yeah, and I think that is key, again, with the outside the box kids. That was crucial to us because I didn't know, like maybe PE would work this time, but it's not, it might not work next time, or it might not work for like a whole season.
Yeah.
And so I think if you are looking to start a group and if you do have outside the box kids or, you want to be a welcome place for those families, that is like number one priority. Okay. So what else? Let's say that, the person listening wants to start a group or has been thinking about it, or her and a couple friends are like, man, I really want to, go on nature hikes together or, do nature study
or my language
or whatever. Yeah. These are Danielle's events. Oh, and we've got to, we'll tell you about the events too. Okay. So, and we will say, I want to give a shout out to the 3 other leaders.
Oh, yes.
I could not fit everybody in this room, but there are 3 more of our very, very good friends who help us keep this ship floating and have been there. 2 of them have been there since the beginning. The other one just moved here, so that's not her fault.
But she still counts.
Yes, she counts. We love you. we love you. Okay, so yeah, we don't do this on our own, and that's important too. So as we grew and people consistently came, they sort of joined leadership or started hosting events.
Very organic.
Yeah,
we watched for the people who were coming regularly. And then at the same time, it's just crazy how when you put it in God's hands, like he does what he wants with it. So we were just talking about this other member of leadership who showed up like a year ago. And she had some crazy stories from other places that she had been in, groups that she had tried to be a part of. But then, we had been looking for like 6 months probably.
Oh, yeah.
And talking about starting some kind of
like skill building class.
Yeah, yeah. Like let's work with wood or just something having to do with skills. And she out of the blue.
Well, we all looked at each other and we're like, man, yeah, that sounds great. Because there were 4 of us at the time, and then there were like crickets. Yes, because that's always the question. Like we'd have these big, so we would meet like every 3 months or so. Like everything was very seasonal in the beginning.
Yes.
We're like, okay, what do we want to do for the fall?
Yeah.
And that was like all we could handle at that time.
Yes.
Or what do we want to do for the winter? Like, let's go do a Christmas thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just us 4 at one of those meetings, and it was crickets. We're like,
I don't know.
I don't know who's going to do this skill class. And so it just sort of got written in the notebook and forgotten about. And then, I mean,
she shows up
6
at
months
a
later,
mom's night out.
Yep.
And just starts talking about.
Just attends an event.
Yes. And out of the blue, and starts talking her. So her husband is a retired SEER instructor, which means he knows all about skills.
Yes.
And by the way, he does woodworking. So
and we're building a house. Like, I mean, she was like just dropped out of the air, knew all these things. But and that, well, we are going to tell you the nuts and bolts of how to start a group. But I want to beeline for 1 second about leadership, about collecting personalities that work really well together.
Yeah.
And we're in a little bit, we're also going to touch on challenges how to work with those. But when you are collecting a group of leaders to run something, it's so critical that everybody is doing what they love and what they're good at, and that they are not doing what they hate or they are bad at. So just make sure everybody is playing to their strengths. I would say that is what makes our leadership so solid, don't you think?
Well, I mean, okay, so it's all a God thing.
Well,
because there's 5 of us currently, and like we couldn't have chosen like a better fit for all of us together. It just works so well. And I think because we allowed it to happen organically, we keep going back to that phrase, but I mean, it's true. If we try to force it and say, okay, I need a team of leaders, I need at least 5 people, I need someone to do this, and this. Well, you don't know how the personalities are going to click. Yeah. But by attending events together, we would say, hey, what about that? And we're like, yeah,
she'd be really great. Yeah.
We're like, hey, maybe in the future. And we're like, yeah, maybe so. So just allowing time to get to know people and build a relationship. If you have a really good friend already that you just love hanging out with, that's the best way to start. Like if you love hanging out together, then you're going to love planning together and organizing together and making it happen together.
Right. Okay. So let's talk. How do we do this thing? We just, let's say, Susie from South Carolina is listening and she wants to start a group. We would say,
hi, Susie.
Hi, Susie. Thanks for joining us. We would say, okay, just find a friend.
Yeah.
And pick don't you think, like one activity that you just want to do together? Kind of like my, front porch confession about like field trips. Like I just want to go places.
I would actually start with a field trip.
Okay.
Because
why?
I say that because going out in public can be a stressor. You know that. So when you go out in public and the kids break down because it's past time, past nap time, or we're going to eat lunch half an hour later than usual, that's when you kind of see some true colors. Yeah. That's when you'll find out if your friend comes alongside of you to push the stroller while you're holding the kicking child. Or when you might see a different side to your friend and you're thinking, I maybe don't want to do life with her anymore.
And then, but you're right. That's a good
So maybe choose some field
litmus
trips to go
test,
on.
kind of.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
to see how you work together.
Yeah, you can be together for 3 or 4 hours, your field trip, wherever that is to, and then it's over.
Right.
So if it didn't work out, no hard feelings.
You're not meeting at the park every Friday at 10 o'clock till death do we part.
Right.
And then it's this weird, awkward, like, so maybe start with one thing. And events are good for this. Okay, so if there's a play, then you just go see that play. Or if like a botanical garden is doing an event, you just go to that event. So then there's like
no
definite
long-term commitment.
Right.
Right at first. If you're not really familiar with whoever it is you're trying to search out, but then once you get to you
okay,
find
so then that goes well.
Yeah, so then you
what?
hang out, you're hanging out and doing life together, and you go, hey, let's see if we can add so and so in on this.
But so and so would be determined, I think, based on any, I don't want to say gaps in your homeschool. Like I feel like we are complete, like not that stuff is missing, but stuff that you want to do that you feel like you could do better in a group or with another friend.
Hence PE.
Right.
Like it would be kind of, like it would get boring if it was just the two of our families doing PE week after week. But then we had
especially you with one kid like playing sharks and minnows. I don't know how much fun that would have been.
I still don't know how to play that game.
I'm it again.
I can't believe it.
Okay, I only know because my kids went to public school for 2 years. Like I'd never even heard of that game
my daughter
in Michigan.
knows how to play it, and
but
she
knows public school people. Yeah.
Well, from church, so she knows how to play it from church.
Oh yeah, they do play it at church.
Okay.
So, like games like that. Yes. I think that was one of our big things. Is you can't play certain games together. Yeah.
So we would learn how to play baseball. Like who stands on what's the base? What base is? Oh, it's hilarious to see the kids running to third instead of to first or whatever. But just
teaching them those skills that they might not pick up. Yeah. Which this has nothing to do with anything except it's funny. One of our first field trips, we went and saw a Civil War reenactment, and it was this guy comes in front of, there's like, I don't know how many, like 50 homeschoolers, right? And he goes, all right, y'all, everyone get in a straight line, or everybody lined up, single file line. That's what it was. Everybody form a single file line.
There's no such thing in
these kids are looking at their parents like, what's this guy saying?
It's just a gaggle of kids.
Nobody knew what to do. Nobody. So you could teach that skill. That would be a skill.
Yes,
you could teach how to line
up. Make a straight line.
Okay, so now let's say Susie is comfortable having like a regular event.
Yeah.
Okay, and now like some other friends.
She has support.
She has help. Yeah. So other friends are joining and they're like, this is really cool. What usually will happen next is what we said about our last, the one that moved here most recently. There will be a need or a desire that you can't fill. And then you just sort of pray about like, okay, God, if we're supposed to do nature study, like none of us can teach that right now. So maybe like raise up another person if you want us to be teaching that. But I mean, I think identifying what you want to do, and I always keep a notebook and I've got a page that says not yet. Huh. So there's a lot of things I want this group to do. Yes. That we can't do right now. We're not equipped to do it for various reasons. But you just kind of tuck that idea aside. What is cool is how many ideas that have come up that are happening this year because somebody brought it up. And that's sort of an ongoing joke is like if somebody comes up and they say, you guys should really do...
fill in the blank.
Fill in the blank. I keep saying nature study because it's a new thing. But whatever. You should. I had somebody at kickoff say math club, like a math group. Yep. You guys should really do this math club. And I will always say, congratulations. You're
hired.
You're hired for free. But that is how most of these events have happened because it's stuff that you are passionate about anyway that you want to just do at a group level and share.
Right. So in an example of that for a nature hike, I love hiking. My 14-year-old does not. So I lead nature hike. It means I have to be there. And guess what? She has to be there too.
But it's something you wanted in your homeschool.
It's something I want to do.
Yeah.
And by obligation now, I get to do it.
Yes. So accountability.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's good. Okay, so now let's speed up to, okay, we've got a pretty good group going. It's getting beyond the group text level.
Oh, okay.
There's some people who found out about us from the librarian, from their sister's coworker.
Strangers coming in.
We got newbies. Yep,
Okay.
and we don't know who they are, but they heard about us. Okay, so
Okay, this is when Cindy does the happy dance and squeal. She's like, oh, they know about Connect.
they know.
How do people know about us? And we're always we're like,
We were kind of like, that was a weird thing when
Yeah.
it started happening. We're
Yeah.
like, who told you? Like, how did you find out?
We're supposed to be a secret.
I
What?
know.
No.
Even though I would parade my shirt at the library every single Tuesday, and I'm like, "Oh, are you looking for a homeschool group?" You know,
Now, seriously, the library is a great place to pick up new families for
it is.
homeschooling.
It is for sure.
During school hours. Go during school hours.
right?
You'll
And
find them.
parks are also. I've been
Yeah.
known to, not like in a creepy way, but there's a
Oh,
park
yeah,
behind.
it's creepy.
There's a park behind my house, and so if I ever saw families out there during school hours, I was like, "Hey, do you guys homeschool?" So I'm all about networking. So I would say
Yeah.
I sort of did invite people, but okay. So let's go back to these people have come. There's people outside of that core circle, that small group. What does that start to look like in terms of planning, organization, and communication?
Okay, so when it wasn't just the small group of friends who kind of got to know each other through the PE class and, I guess maybe 10 families or something were involved. Once it started to get past that and we started having strangers show up, I think it's probably about the time that you were like we need a Facebook page. We need
That is
some
what we did
way
first.
to communicate.
They need to
with
find
people.
us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or we need to say, it's raining, or
Yes.
we're
yes,
not
that
going to
too.
meet for PE today.
Right.
Or the teacher's kid is sick. Not teacher. We call them hosts.
Right.
Whoever's hosting that event, like their kid is sick, they can't be there.
Right.
So, yeah, we started the Facebook page first. Okay. And then we posted everything on Facebook.
So we used Facebook events
Yep.
in order for people to know what was available, because we started having, multiple events then each month.
Right. It was like 4 or 5 things a month. And then I know we thought we were so big.
And we were so busy
Oh my goodness.
keeping up with everything.
Right. Okay. So then we would have, like if there was a play, we would need an RSVP, and somebody would, you would have to pay money. And then that got a little complicated on Facebook, because
Yes.
then, people would click going, but you didn't know, were they really going, or how
Yes.
many of them were going, and all that.
And you have to let the field trip people know how many people
Yes.
are showing up, and then if people didn't show up.
Yes.
So yeah, you have to, there's a lot. This would be considered a challenge. You want to talk about some of the challenges. These were some of those challenges that we ran into. Like we were taking
The growing
people,
pains.
Yes.
Yeah.
We were taking people at their word that they're coming because they said they were coming.
But then they
don't
wouldn't.
show up. And the people give you dirty looks because you don't have as many people as they expected. So you have to find ways around that. And I think probably for each group it's a little different.
Yeah.
But we did get to where with some of our events, like for a field trip where you had to buy a ticket or something, where you would pay ahead of time for your spot so that we didn't have to deal with all the cash. I remember one event we went to, I was collecting cash.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
It's
I
a
mean,
mess.
it was.
So no to cash, especially in 2021. Like there's no reason we need to deal with cash. So there's Venmo, there's PayPal. I'm sure there's a bunch of other stuff that millennials know about that I don't know about where you can get money. So at that point we felt like, okay, we need to get a little more efficient. So let's speed up, because Danielle is our what do I call you to people who don't know us?
I don't even
Our
remember.
communication. What is it? Not director.
I don't know.
Head of communication.
Oh, yeah.
Danielle.
Which, if you know me, is hilarious. It's very ironic that I would be this person.
But she's extremely efficient with communication. So tell them our how we do all communication now that we're a larger group.
Well, so we don't skip a step. We actually used Google Calendar.
Oh, that's right.
For
Yep.
a while, we posted all of our events on Google Calendar, so that people could actually tap into that and have all the events on their own calendars.
Oh, because we had people that weren't on Facebook.
Yes.
And so that's what happened. They were like, I'm not on Facebook. How can I still stay plugged in?
Way for them to know. Okay, so fast forward to 2020 when COVID hits. And suddenly...
And we thought we would shut down.
It was a possibility, yeah.
Right. But
suddenly we're faced with mask mandates, with a particular number of people who are allowed to be together in one particular spot, meeting publicly. So there were a lot of things that contributed to the route we took, but even without COVID, we will keep this route, I feel like.
Yeah, it's an efficient way to communicate.
It works great.
Because what I was going for, we thought like there was going to be, I don't know that we'll even get to meet, and then our numbers, I haven't done the math, but it's a lot. Like we either doubled.
It just blew up.
So then there were a lot more people that we needed to communicate with.
Yes.
So that all goes to the way we're doing things now, which like Danielle said, it's amazing. We're going to keep it, COVID or not.
So what we do now, we have an email list that everything goes out to. So if you want to be on the email list, you can be on the email list. And of course,
it's a free account through MailChimp.
Yes.
So
we don't pay anything for it. We work within the confines of that free account. And then we have continued with Facebook. So that email, we send out an email once a month, and on that email is a link for each of the events that are offered for that particular month. And
so you send it out the Sunday before,
the Sunday before
upcoming month.
Yeah, at the end of the prior month, so that people have time to check their schedule, sign up for what they want, all that kinds of stuff. So there are several links, like I said, a link for each event. You click on that link, and that link takes you to a Google Doc. Well, Google form, I should say. And on that Google form, it gives you all the information about that event that you could possibly want to know. And at the bottom of the form, you can fill it out if you want to attend. So we call it registration. So if you want to attend an event, you register for it. And the reason that we started it was because of COVID. We had to keep our numbers down.
Yeah.
We had to plan for how many people were coming. And because our numbers had gone up incredibly, there was just we found we had to create wait lists. So we'd have a certain number of students that were allowed into the class, and once we reached that number, we had to start putting people on the wait list.
And this let me butt in here real quick. That's why the email is really good too, because what was also happening on Facebook last year, if you remember, is the event would go up and then people would scramble to get on and sign up. Well, if you didn't have Facebook, or if you didn't know,
out of luck, before you even got your
or if you
email.
didn't have your notifications turned on or whatever, like you didn't even know the event was up.
Yeah.
Where with email, most people have it hooked to their phone where it will ding and say, oh, registration is open, and it just gave you more of a chance. With us having to keep numbers so low, you actually had a chance.
Yes. So I actually send out the email first before I post it on Facebook. So like if you're like a diehard Connect person, you're on the email list.
Right.
You're like, we actually have people who wait on Sunday night. No, I kid you not. Sunday afternoon, I've had them telling me like, I'm waiting for
it up yet? Yeah.
Like waiting for the events to come up so they can grab the ones that they want. Which is fantastic. Like, who would have thought people wanted to hang out with us?
I know that it's all me, really. It's all us.
I mean,
yeah,
no, because she's famous. This podcast that she has. I mean, everybody knows.
But I think we've created a welcome thing, and I think we have cool events. It's not. I mean, for real, it's not us.
Truly, it wouldn't matter how great our events were if we were not a welcoming type people.
Yeah. So
nobody wants to show up for an event and feel like an outsider. Okay,
so let's tell them that as part of the nuts and bolts. Okay, so that's our communication. So people then sign up for an event. Now they're coming to the events. Let's talk about hosts, and that's hard to say.
Hosts.
Co-hosts. The hosts and the seconds.
Yes. So last year we decided, because of the growth that we had going on, that we would have
let's be honest, because of a disastrous event that I had that I was here by myself. It was a total flop. It was like the worst event I've ever hosted, and I was alone. There was nobody else in leadership there. And we are not even going to say which event because I don't want anybody, if they were there, to get their feelings hurt. It was not the people.
It wasn't the people's fault. It was your fault.
Yeah, it was totally. It's so important for friends to be honest, isn't it?
It really wasn't her fault, but
it was a wake-up call.
It's just a combination of... Yes, a culmination of things happening.
Listen, I have put this thing to bed. We're not going to dredge it back up.
Do not believe her. Every time it comes up, she like, you can just see it. It's just the ire is just rising.
I'm scarred. But I think it was eye-opening because we thought, oh, this is like turning into something else.
Yes.
This is not like...
This
hey,
isn't our buddies showing up for something.
Let's not go hang out.
If it doesn't go well, it's not a big deal.
Right, we're like, oh, well, whatever. Right, let's go hang out at Cindy's house. Like, it was, because we do host a lot of these events in our home or in our backyard or in a local park. You know, it's very small group setting. It's not like we rent out a place or anything. You know, it's very grassroots, like, close-knit. And so, it was in my home. I was the only one there for leadership. And so that was eye-opening where we realized, wow, we've got to have at least 2 leaders at every single event because I could not teach
everything.
Yeah, which was a real wake-up call for me because I really think I can.
Yeah, so I love the way that we have it set up now. Yeah. We have one who is hosting, and everybody knows if you're going to have an event in your home, you are running around like mad before people show up, trying to make sure that all those last minute things that you couldn't do an hour early get done. And so we decided that on our information that gets sent out to the people who will be coming, that we would also have a contact number. Now, the host's phone number is not the contact number because the host cannot be answering questions about how to get to their house and still get prepared for their event. So the contact number that the people who are attending actually get are the co-host's number. So the co-host is fielding phone calls should somebody be lost and doesn't know how to get there. And they are also the ones greeting people as they come in. They're the ones who are helping people get signed up or getting them seated, just making them feel welcome when they get there, introducing them to other people.
Yes, I was going to say they're especially on the lookout for newcomers because they're the first person often that person will meet, and they are the first impression of Connect. So we really need somebody who that's their job.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So having 2 leaders.
They collect the money too.
Yes, if
that's
there's
the other.
A fee. Yeah, if there's some kind of fee for it. So it really helps to have the 2 leaders who can divide and conquer. And the fact that they each have their own specific role. So we'll even have the co-host show up at least 15 minutes early to help with last minute details before other people start showing up.
And then they stay late to help clean up.
Yes.
So it
eases the burden.
Yes, but they're very distinct. So for instance, a class that we do is artists and composers. So that's a great example of where if you did not have 2, you would totally crash and burn.
Yeah.
Book club, you could get, things like that, or I'm trying to think of some other events. Park day, where it's nice.
You're not really setting up.
Right. It's nice, but it's not. So for artist and composer, we're, listening to a composer's music, and then we're recreating a print by, in the style of whatever artist we pick. And so sometimes there's always supplies, there's paint brushes, there's markers, there's, papers to set out one for each kid. There's a lot of setup. Yeah. And so, right, it's really crucial to have another person there to be mingling, because that's the whole point. We did not start Connect so we could all learn about composers and artists. You can learn that in your homeschool. This is just a veil, right, over relationships. That's in our tagline.
Well, we did start Connect so we could learn how to play kickball.
Yeah. Yeah, because nobody was going to learn on their own, for sure.
No,
Church camp. That's our other opportunity.
It's funny that you say that, because I was thinking the same exact thing of how crucial it is to have that welcoming phase.
Yeah.
So when we as leaders attend an event, even if we're not the host or the co-host, we're quote unquote on. Like, it's never been said, but that's just, we want, like, that's our desire, is that people feel welcomed, that people feel like they belong, like they know somebody, that they can walk away feeling like they might have a new future friend, you know?
Yeah. Well, it's our tagline, bringing
homeschool families together. Yeah.
Well, didn't we shorten it? Bringing families together.
Homeschoolers?
Bringing homeschoolers together.
You can
look at the
see
back of my shirt. I know, we just changed it. Okay. To try to be easier, right? Wasn't that the reason we changed it? So it was simplified.
Well, yeah,
we
our
can't
logo
remember
changed
it
too. So
okay, so bringing homeschoolers together is that's our goal, and so we do artist and composer as an excuse to bring homeschoolers together.
We do want to know something about artists and
Sure,
composers.
we do choose events that are nurturing to the type of homeschool that we want to create. You know, like we do really collect a lot of people who have similar values, even with homeschooling, you know, so we are doing...
Now, I will say that we have a very eclectic group.
Yeah.
As far as the type of, you know, some homeschool groups
not necessarily philosophy. Right.
Some homeschool groups are
values.
solely a particular type of homeschool method.
That's important. We didn't say that.
Yes. So when we're talking about being inclusive, you know, with out-of-the-box children... etc., we're also including in that your homeschool method.
Yes.
So while Cindy is very Charlotte Mason, I'm very eclectic. I do some things that a Charlotte Mason like, but I also use textbooks. Shh! Don't tell Cindy. You know, we're also inclusive.
We're open to many philosophy. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely no like list what homeschool philosophy you most closely adhere to, like on our sign up. You know, that's not a thing. And
too, I think because you came from the experience of having been rejected, feeling like you had been rejected, it was extremely important to you that nobody walk away feeling that way. And with us being Christians, I mean, we just tend to, we want that anyway. Like, we want to be inclusive. We want people to feel loved. We want to have relationship.
It needs to be at the forefront, though. It needs to be intentional, or else it won't happen. You'll get clicky.
Because I could stand and talk with Cindy for the full 2 hours and never talk to anybody else.
That's
we have that much to talk about. But we don't talk with each other.
We don't see each other at events.
No. We save that for later, because the event is the time when we can draw people in. We're looking for those people who need it.
Yeah.
When we want to be able to help them.
Well, making connections and listening for things like, you know, we just started homeschooling. I really want to, or I'm really struggling with math right now. And I can say, oh, you know, well, I was just talking to so-and-so and they're really loving Life of Fred, you know, or Matthew. Or Matthew C.
All you Fred lovers.
You know, but then we can make those connections between people. It's and that's where my passion is. Awesome. Like, oh, that reminds me of this, you know, and like bringing one and connecting them to the other.
We don't have to be everybody's best friend.
That's it. And then you find out,
make them best friends.
Yes, but then you find out at the next event, like, they had a play date that week.
Yes. And we're like, where was our invitation?
Right. We didn't get invited, you know, like
but we think that's the best. That's fantastic.
Yeah, so we're matchmaking too. Okay, so I think that's a lot of the nuts and bolts. What about challenges?
I think from the get-go, an ongoing challenge has always been scheduling.
Yeah.
So even when there were just 5 families meeting, you know, some of us had nappers, some of us didn't.
Yep.
Do we do park day in the morning so that the nappers can get home and get the little ones down for bed? Or do we wait until the afternoon when the older ones are done with school?
Yep.
So I think scheduling is a big part of it. And we wanted to be together enough that we just worked around. You know, sometimes it wasn't the most convenient for us in particular, but we knew it was best for the group. So we'd work our schedule around it so that we could all be together. We just wanted to be together enough that we prioritized it. And somewhere along the line, we fell into Fridays. And there's a local homeschool group here that's very big, and they meet on Fridays. So then as we grew, there were a few
request that we start doing Friday afternoon events so that they could come to those after. And so, again, that was another organic growth because, I mean, I'm thinking, like, why do you want to come to our stuff? Like, you have a
You
thing.
have a cool thing
Like,
going on.
I would be done. Like, I'd be like, let's go get lunch and just, like, relax the rest of the day. I'm not going to another event.
But it was more than just a handful of people
For
who
sure.
were coming and saying, we really want to do nature hike, but we can't come
At this time
Yeah.
or day. Yeah. So then we did, right. I do think we took some of that into account and shifted where we could.
Some stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I will say, too, that's the other benefit about our setup with hosts and seconds is that the hosts really have a lot of control over their events. So they get to pick where they host it, which, again, for me, outside the box mom, like, I often have things in my backyard because my older two sometimes cannot handle the event for the duration that my younger two can. So they need to be able to opt out at some point. Mm-hmm. They need to be able to go in the house and shut the door. And then they might rejoin us later and enjoy it in their own way. But I don't want my younger two to miss out on the event because the older two are not able to handle some of the parts of it. And so if I have it in my backyard, then it's the best of both worlds. So we have a lot of control over what we host, where we host. Whoever plans field trips is picking the field trips. Mm-hmm. So we've always said about this group, it has to work for our family first. And it has to work for what you want, your specific kids.
And let me clarify, when Cindy says it has to work for our family first, she is not saying that every event that gets planned is planned around her family and her schedule. Right. What she means by that is it has to work for the host's family. If that friend of yours is willing to go through the effort and the time and everything that goes into hosting an event, then by all means, they ought to be able to pick what works for them.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that has been from the very beginning. Back when we were the ones who were, in charge of all the events, we had to make sure they worked for us. If we can't show up, well, what's the point in planning the event?
Yeah. Or if your kid is miserable during the whole, like if your kids hate your event, that is,
hey,
that is a bad thing.
Now.
Well, okay, besides the nature hike. Yeah. I don't know that all of mine love poetry and tea. I think I would just sit out in my backyard by myself and drink tea and read poetry to just whoever was walking by. Yeah, now, whoever wanted to come.
I do need to go on record and say that my daughter loves going to nature hikes, not for the hiking, but because she gets to see friends.
That's it.
So
you work that in. Okay, all right. So what other challenges? COVID was a massive challenge. Okay, then you've got mask mandates, and then everything got political, and then I would call you for a therapy session every month, frantic about what if people don't wear masks, and what, and just it being when or if your group were to get big, and when I say big, okay, so I would say we have 130-ish on the email list.
No, it's we have over 160 now.
Oh, okay. So we just had kickoff. So yes. I feel like our numbers went off and I missed it. And then
at kickoff, we had 140 something families attend. And may I mention, it was
homeschool
August.
Families with lots of kids.
Yes, and it was in August outside.
Or not? You said 140 families. People.
Oh, no. 140 people.
Yes, you're right. Okay, so go on.
Over
August.
140 people. Oh, my bad.
I'm killing your drama.
I know,
it was
right?
August?
Yes, let's start over. Can we cut that? No. So it was August. It was North Alabama, and it was hot. And we still had over 140 people show up for kickoff. If they want it, and if you are providing an atmosphere that people want to be in, they will tell their friends, and those friends will tell friends. We had people showing up people, were signing up on these lists, and we were like, does anybody know who these people are? Does anyone know?
Right.
No, nobody knows.
Yeah.
We'll find out when we get there.
Yes. Okay. So let's back to challenges. That was all my stuff. The COVID stuff, the mask mandates. I don't know. I just get very stressed about things like that. I just want everything to work and nobody complain about it and nobody think differently about how we should do things. So we sort of, I think we just said, like, as you know, we're going to do what the state says. We're just going to fall in line type of thing. Like, we want to be above reproach.
Above reproach was our motto.
Yep, that was our motto through the whole thing. So I think what's important when you know, if it's COVID specifically, you just have to find a ground where you're united. I would say even within leadership, definitely within the group, people have different opinions concerning COVID, but we were all able to reach a place of like, okay, can we all agree on this,
right.
you know? And so we did not shut down. We did keep meeting, you know, because that was the first thing. We tried to do some things digital.
Yeah.
We did some
we had
teen
some
night.
great things
Teen
digital.
night. So a lot of that, it was dependent on who was hosting the event, if it was at their house, if it was at a public place or
and
a
this
home.
goes back to leadership. So like, if you have particular convictions about COVID and masking and whatever, you need to stick by those. Now, don't be trying to shove them down other people's throat, but if you're gonna provide an event, provide it within the realm that you're comfortable with.
Right.
And if they want to attend, they can attend. And if they don't want to attend for some particular reason, then they don't have to. And what we found, we were not in the majority as far as what people wanted in the homeschool
community here in our area.
Yes,
yeah.
We were not doing what the majority of homeschoolers wanted us to do, and yet we still grew.
Yeah.
By leaps and bounds. So, you know, we had regulars, you know, for 5 years prior that we didn't see at all last year because they didn't want to attend with those regulations, and that's okay.
Right.
We didn't hold it against them. They're still our friends. We're looking forward to seeing them this year. So
God willing.
Yeah.
Right. So it's just important to be okay.
Yeah.
With what you decide and to pick something.
Be accepting of people.
Yes.
Be inclusive. Yes. It's okay if they think differently than you. Love them anyway. Be their friend. That doesn't have to, break relationships.
Right. Right. And so any challenges, really, that can be the answer for that, is that you always want unity to be at the core. Mm-hmm. What's the most important is we all want this group to work together. We all want these relationships and friendships. Like we all want this to work. So then sometimes
I'm thinking of some, like you might have some strong personalities that show up. Or unusual.
Do we have one of those?
Unusual people who show up for events.
Yes, yes.
And you love them
just
where
love
they
them.
are.
Yeah.
We've had people who show up who are planning to do public school.
And then they still come to check it out.
And and they come and you just let them know.
You meet whatever their need is that day.
Yeah.
Like maybe they
homeschooling may not be what works for you. You have to decide that. And we'll still like you, even if you don't.
Right. Maybe she needed to come to our group to realize she didn't want to homeschool.
Right. God was like, go meet those crazies.
You'll be talked out of it. Okay, so that's another. I can't think of any other. I mean, just personality differences, time scheduling. Those are going to be the main challenges that I think we've struggled with. We've been very blessed that we haven't had any
unity has been incredible.
Yes.
But I think that goes back to leadership attitude.
Being welcoming, being intentional. Yes.
In the beginning, and that ripples through.
Okay, so anything else before we tell them our events? Because I want to inspire them.
I have one thing to say.
What?
If you're thinking of starting a group, don't do it.
What?
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I mean, it can grow.
It can be a lot. Okay, let's finish on challenges that it can be a lot. It is a big undertaking if it grows a lot. So don't
but you don't start there.
You don't.
And the reality is, which I don't think we've quite grasped yet, is that you can stop it where you want it.
Yes, and you can make it what you want it.
It doesn't have to grow. Like, you don't have to.
Exactly. You don't have to do whatever you don't want.
A month
right. You can keep it as small as you want. You can, we had kickoff this past week. And, we had these nice little flyers that they got to take home that said like what days the events were on, and we didn't have to do that.
No.
That was something.
But they were really cool.
They did come out pretty cool. That was something we felt like we had the ability to do, and we thought it would be helpful, and we just wanted them for ourselves. Like it goes back to
they
like
were so cool.
That we want whatever we want for our family, and then we like share with the group. So yes, you can control that, and so I think we grew, and that's a good thing. But
we're looking forward to this.
We are. It's going to be so fun.
Yeah.
But it just be realistic. Don't think it's this little side thing. If it's really like sort of like a part-time job, be realistic about how much time you're pouring into it, how much time you want to be pouring into it.
Yes, because if you're doing like a lot, I imagine most of these people would be starting something for their kids.
Yes.
So their kids can have relationships and they can have relationships. But if you're spending so much of your time organizing and prepping and, or, like the day that you're hosting something, you're at odds with your kids because
you're monster
stressed.
Mommy.
Yes.
Oh, sorry about that. Okay.
Is our time up?
Our time's up. Get out of here. See you later.
But if that's where it leads, pull back.
Yes, that's a good indicator.
Focus on the relationships, because if the relationship isn't healthy, then there's no point in doing it.
Right. This should add to your homeschool.
Yes.
This should enhance or enrich your homeschool. This should not distract you from your main goals with your homeschool. It shouldn't take time away. This should feel like it's adding to your homeschool and your relationships.
Yeah, and we will say that, so we've mentioned 5 in the leadership right now, the 5 main leaders, but we actually have 14.
Yes, I'm so sorry.
All together who are doing leading these events, hosting and
the hosts and seconds.
So don't think like we've grown to this number and we're doing it all. Because that would kind of contradict what we just said about not devoting so much time that you don't have time with your family. As the numbers grew, God kept providing, these awesome women that are willing to lead events, and they want them for their own families, and we're like,
yes, we'll take it. And they're fantastic and make the group so whole. They add so much value, and everybody works together so well. And
believe it or not, like Cindy and I may not click with everybody. They might like somebody else. They might not like our events. They might decide, like somebody cooler than us is who they want to hang out with.
And there's plenty to choose from.
Yes, we have 14 people you can choose from. Surely you'll like one of them.
But truly, I feel terrible I didn't bring this up sooner. Like, shout out to our seconds, if anybody's listening, because they are incredible. Awesome. Yeah, we
could not have done kickoff without every single person. We couldn't do
any of that, and that's what I have to make so clear. You can only do what you have enough people to do. Like we're going to tell you our events in the next couple minutes to give you some inspiration, but just know there is no way we could have those events or the amount of these events without all of this great leadership. There's no way. So
if there's not somebody willing to lead it, we did not do it.
That's it.
Like, we did not force anything. If a mom if my mom said, "Hey, I want book club, what do y'all think?" Sure. Hey, that sounds great.
If we can find someone to lead it.
Well, if they were,
or if you can lead it. Yeah.
And that's how so much of it has happened.
Yeah. And we do, the last note on hosts and seconds, we do only let people into leadership who've been coming and understand the
years.
Sometimes years, sometimes not.
Well, but so our latest one, she kind of slipped in under the radar there.
But she's so great. I know. But it's very, very important that people in leadership understand the
commitment.
The commitment and what's the word I'm looking for? Like the atmosphere we're trying to create.
Yes.
The
atmosphere. I think that was good.
I guess that, okay. Just the vibe of the group,
yes.
That they know what, they share our values. They know what our focus is.
If
they
you
know
ever
what we're
see
trying
them
to do.
talking, two-faced behind somebody's back, just,
Right.
Welcome them to the event, but probably not the best choice for leadership.
Exactly. Yeah. So we were very conscious in like who we have run it. So that's important. Okay.
Events.
Events.
List of events.
I've got my list.
All right.
Let's just tell them our calendar.
Okay.
So, and then maybe we'll take turns telling them like a little snippet about the events. Okay. So we run our calendar sort of year round, but here's how it looks. Okay, so in August we do a big kickoff, and so that is usually at a park. Because of the weather, we're definitely going to have that inside next time.
Yes,
next year it's inside. But that is a gathering where the moms can sit and listen to what I'm going to tell you, about all of our events and things like that, and then the kids are supervised by our awesome leadership team. And they play at the park or in a gym or whatever safely while their moms or dads get to sit and listen and have some tea and lemonade, little refreshments. And then September through November, we have our regular events, which we're going to tell you about in a second. In December, we do a field trip. It's usually, obviously, like a Christmassy something. I think we're going to see A Christmas Carol this year, which is going to be fantastic. And then a service project, tossing around the idea of maybe some sort of Christmas
pageant, which I have already nixed.
Yeah, I feel like that's not going to happen. Okay, the other thing.
But this is the great. So
this is this in action. Yeah,
you're seeing some of what actually happens with discussing events. So like this is something that Cindy has wanted for the last few years. Like I want a pageant. I want
like a variety show.
And I just keep imagining like this show and tell kind of show going badly. And I'm just, like the parents out there being like, is it gonna ever end? And anyway, so like you have different opinions and we bounce them off of each other. And now that we have 3 other people that we can ask about it,
and someone
they
will
all sided with
shut
me,
it down.
But
just like t-shirts, I got shut down on t-shirt design. So I rebelled and bought myself a Charlotte Mason t-shirt while they were deciding what logo we were going to use on our t-shirts.
But so that's the great thing is even though like Cindy,
I didn't get my way, but that was good because that was probably the best decision.
Of course it was.
It was, but I just didn't like it.
But you can see though that she's very flexible as a leader. You're considering the whole group. You're considering all of leadership. And if you have 3-4 other people who are all saying the opposite of you, do not get upset and pitch a fit.
Or take it personally. Like it's not like you have bad ideas. It's just that is not going to work.
That particular one just
right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that a pageant can't happen in the future.
One day. It's going on the not yet page of my Connect notebook.
Exactly. But you have to work well with other people.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Okay, one thing we do for Christmas, which I love and is so fun, is we do a leadership party.
Yeah.
And so that, I just love that because we all get together and celebrate. Okay.
And eat brownies.
And it's so fun. And there's one, I gotta tell them, I'm not gonna name anybody, but there's a certain someone who dresses up. And it's awesome. Yes. So
and I think too,
she's recruited.
I think
there's going to be some dress up.
Yeah. It's not going to be me. I'm just
it will not
saying.
Be. It will
I know
not be
everyone
Danielle.
out there is surprised that it's not going to be.
But
me
it's so fun because you spend all this time together.
What if I did dress up?
Oh my gosh!
Would knock everybody's socks
They wouldn't
off.
know what to do.
Oh,
I think you might ruin it though.
Go shopping.
Because then they'd be.
You have to help me find like some crazy dress.
Some ridiculous Christmas, like ugly Christmas dress.
Santa? Should I be Santa?
Oh my gosh, what if you did? What if you Yes! Wait, are there going to be kids or no? It's just us. That'd be kind of weird.
No. Well, the weirder the better, right?
Yeah. Like, they're like, where's Danielle? I'm like, I don't know. Gosh. Okay, so super fun Christmas party. And I will just say, I one of the things I love about it is I feel like I get to show appreciation for how hard everybody worked. None of us are getting paid to do this. Like a lot of times we're pulling out of our pocket for coffee, little refreshments, things
No
like
comment
that.
there.
Danielle forever wants Connect to charge a membership fee.
Not forever.
And-
it's just in this past year, expenses have grown.
But I think, and we never
do
addressed
have a
money.
good point.
That is a challenge. So
Yeah.
we do charge per event if that event has like a supply fee.
Yeah.
But what I did consent to this year is a coffee donations jar. So you
Which
can do things
nobody
like that.
put
Nobody put it. Hey, I only tried it once. I have faith that over the years they'll be like, oh.
is that- yeah.
Am I supposed to get? So, I mean, you deal with that. If you feel comfortable or you can afford it and you want to provide coffee or refreshments at your events, do it.
And that's just
But you
it.
don't have to.
You don't have to.
Don't,
No.
like, Danielle does not bring water for everybody on her nature hikes. She's like, bring your own canteen.
But that's a good point.
Yeah.
Pre-COVID, we would all bring. So, like, if it happened to be an event
Oh,
where
like
we wanted
presentation.
some kind of food,
Everyone would bring something.
Yeah, everyone could contribute, and then
Yep.
you can keep your costs down that way. You just, bring in some plates or something.
Yes, it was easier. So that's your call. Make it what you want. And then
Exactly.
January through April is regular events again. May we do a year-end celebration, which is sort of like a field day plus.
Yeah.
So again,
This last
outside the
year was
box.
great.
It was. Okay, so I don't know about you, but like my family, my kids do not think running the mile in Alabama when it's 90 degrees is celebrating anything.
Why do we live in Alabama?
I don't know. This seems to be the common problem. So I really wanted some events that were not field day-ish, so we added.
Which at first I was like, well, like what kind of event?
No, she was not. She goes, that is going to be absolute chaos. That was your, that was your
Okay,
words.
let me say,
There's going to be bouncy balls flying everywhere
yes.
while people are trying to run the mile.
Yes, when I asked her, and she mentioned that we'd have these big beach balls, like that people could, kids could just be
Bouncing
throwing.
ball. Yeah,
I said, okay, but that's not going to work when the mile or relay races are going on and balls are going across the path. So working through all those details, but I will go on record as saying it was absolute genius to have other events outside of the track and field events.
Thank you.
So while the track and field events are running, do we want to go into this?
No, we don't need to. Yeah, maybe
Just
that'll be
know
another episode
that there were
in May.
other things going on, and it was fantastic.
There were options.
Yeah.
So if you weren't athletic, you could still have fun.
You had other stuff
at this
you could
event,
do.
or if you were a baby,
Yes.
like the babies like hung out by the bubble machine.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so then we had a year-end celebration. So we didn't do our regular events in
Mm-hmm.
August or May. We just had that one big push.
And we used May for planning
Yes.
for next year.
And that's when the leadership would get together. We actually did something fancy this year and we did like a little getaway
away.
weekend.
Like what homeschool mom?
I
gets to
know,
go
like without
away?
kids, but none of us have like littles. So that's the
Well,
only
no, we
reason we
did,
can't.
yeah.
Well, not like little.
Yeah.
It's like two.
our new
two and a half.
That's little enough.
Okay. But we were able to do it and it was fantastic. We just brainstormed and planned like the layout for the whole year.
Yeah.
And so we got so much done so that now
Now we're
it was
obligated
a lot.
to keep it
Now
all.
we have to keep it. But now it's just details. So that was really an amazing
Yes.
fun time.
Very
so
effective.
yeah. And then June and July, we sort of just do park days and teen nights and mom's night out. And then we tried this curriculum and coffee where you could come and it was like more than a used book sale. It was like you could come and like talk to moms about curriculum or you could show or
If you had a favorite curriculum,
Yes, that
could
you wanted
bring
to
it
share.
so that other people could see it and look through it, put their hands on it.
or if you had something that you didn't need for like the next 2 years, but you didn't
Yeah.
want to sell it quite yet,
You could actually lend it.
you could,
That was awesome.
loan it out.
Yeah.
So, okay. So our regular events, go ahead and just rattle them off to give some inspiration.
Oh, okay.
This is what we do for the January or the September through November and January through April.
So our regular monthly events are sports/PE, park day, nature hike, skills class, Spanish conversation, presentation, handicrafts, book club junior, book club senior, the arts, which I'll go back to in a minute, nature study.
Well, just tell them now.
Teen night. Hold on one second.
They're going to forget.
Chemistry lab. Let's see what else. We have yearbook, mom's night out, and then going back to the arts. So that one rotates. There are 3 different events within the arts that we do, that actually Cindy does. So there's artist and composer. There's poetry and tea, which is her favorite, and my personal favorite, which is performance.
That's so fun though too. I love that.
Great.
All we
the
do.
kids always love
Yes.
it. I love it too.
We
like
have,
the adults get to do it.
It's fun. It's impromptu acting, and so there's no. That's what's important to know.
But it's not weird. Impromptu acting.
No. There's a plan that they have to follow.
A script. Yeah.
Yeah.
We just take the bones of a
classic
literature book.
Yeah.
And then like she has like just the bare necessities,
like scene by scene.
Yeah. And then each family we all get 15 minutes to prep our scene, and then we come together and do it in order. So you're actually seeing the book or whatever it happens to be unfold in front of your eyes. So it's super fun.
It is.
Pre-COVID, we had costumes you could choose from and props and stuff.
And it wasn't by family. We would just pick a number. And so then you'd have to work well. There's so many skills that the kids are learning about collaboration and working together. So that is fun. And we don't have too much time to go into details. So you can always email me if you have questions. But I think they're pretty self-explanatory, all of them. The senior and junior book club are just divided by age because our kids are getting older.
Mm-hmm. Sports and PE. So we decided this year, this is a new one, the sports club, and it's geared for 4th grade and up so that none of the little ones get hurt. But we're learning team sports specifically for 6 weeks at a time. So our first one is going to be volleyball, for example. That's something that you can't just... you can get together and hit a ball over a net.
But to learn how to play the sport, it's intentional.
But one of our thoughts was, what if you don't like volleyball? What if you, or what if you're not in 4th grade and up? So,
or what if you have a younger sibling and you want to play volleyball, but you're a homeschool family, so the younger sibling has to come along and do something.
Right. So at the same location, in the same gym, we'll also have PE available. So if you're not interested in volleyball, or if you're a younger sibling, you'll still get your PE time in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, and the last 2 things that we do are, one, the welcome packet gets sent out at the beginning of every year, so that I did a separate one for leadership to kind of, introduce them and what they're going to do. And then I did one for the whole group, like anybody who joined Connect, just a sneak peek, just to know what they're getting. And if they couldn't come to kickoff, it tells all of our events, what time they are, how to sign up, and all that. And then the other thing is the Facebook page. One of our leaders runs it, like she moderates it. She does a great job, like deciding who gets to come in. So it's a safe spot where moms can talk. And so she does like a conversation starter every week, and there's opportunity for connection on the Facebook page. It's not just a landing spot for registration. It's a spot where moms can go on and say, oh, I don't know what to teach for this, or hey, is anybody going to,
even for the newbies,
whatever.
What does your school day look like?
Yes.
What
how do I
be
do
doing?
this thing? Yeah. So it's support.
I'm glad you brought up Connect Again. So
Connect again.
Connect,
I know. Should we talk about Connect?
I'm glad you brought up Facebook again, because it did make me think of this. So if you choose to use a Facebook website page, consider whether or not you want it to be an open group or a closed group. If you intend to put events on there, you probably want it to be a closed group, because you don't want just anybody knowing where all these little kids are going to be. So just consider that.
And definitely set up questions to let people in the group, so you can screen them.
Who gets to come in?
Because we've definitely turned a lot of people down. Like we've had some weirdos
had no business being on our website.
So it's just important to do that. But Okay. Well, I think we
Think
covered
it all.
I don't know. Did we
They're all
miss
set.
anything?
They're ready to go form.
There
your
you
group.
go. You can
Find
go form your
friend.
group.
Find that first friend.
Go back to the beginning. Just
Yep.
find one friend.
Yep, that's how it all starts.
That you want to do one thing together, and then you just add one thing until the next thing you know, you've got 14 people in leadership and 27 events that are going on throughout the year. Or maybe not. Or maybe cut it, and don't let it grow that big.
You want it to stop.
But make it yours.
Yeah.
And make lasting relationships and friendships.
Yep. Make them welcome.
Thanks so much for listening to Homeschooling Outside the Box. If you are loving the show, please head over to iTunes and leave a review. This is a great way to help other moms just like you find encouragement in their homeschool with their outside the box child as well. For more encouragement, be sure to head to cindyrenna.com and you can check out some great blog posts as well as a shop that will help equip you on your homeschooling journey.